Welcome back, everyone. This is our 71st deep dive, and we're pushing further into paradise.
That's right. Last time we just entered the first sphere, the moon.
Yeah, where we met those souls, remember? The ones who couldn't fulfill their vows because, well, they were forced to break them.
And they found this incredible peace just by accepting God's will. It really challenges our sort of earthly ideas about justice, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. How intentions fit into the divine plan, even when things go wrong.
Exactly.
And like always on this journey, you answer one question, and suddenly you've got two more cropping up.
That's Dante for you.
So today we're diving deep into the fourth canto of Paradise.
Okay, go for.
Our mission, as always, is to really unpack the ideas here, see what useful lessons, what insights we can maybe find for our own lives, our own journeys.
How this, ancient text still speaks to us today. What does it offer for the complexities we're all facing?
Okay, so let's unpack this. In Canto 4, Dante finds himself completely paralyzed almost. He's wrestling with two massive doubts.
Yeah, it's like that classic image, Bearden's donkey stuck between two equally good bundles of hay. He can't move.
Exactly. A great image for these intellectual knots. So the first doubt really hits at justice, doesn't it?
It does. He's thinking about souls like Picarda and Constance. They're in paradise, yes, but on the lowest sphere.
Even though they were forced not to fulfill their vows.
Right. So Dante's wondering, is that really fair? Does it feel like maybe a different standard is being applied to them compared to someone who, say, resisted to the death?
You'd think sticking to your word, your vow, would be paramount. And then there's the second doubt.
This one's more about the structure of what he's seeing. He sees souls appearing in different heavens, the moon, later others.
So does that mean they actually live in different places? Are some literally higher up, closer to God than others?
These are big challenges to his understanding, definitely. And what's really striking is how Beatrice handles them.
Oh. What does she do?
She tackles the justice question first, the ethical one.
Before the one about where souls actually are?
Before the cosmological one, yeah. She prioritizes the moral doubt.
Ah, okay. And maybe there's our first big takeaway from this canto right there.
I think so. Prioritizing the questions that really touch our conscience, the ethical stuff. Maybe deal with that before getting lost in the purely intellectual puzzles.
The hierarchy of concerns in our own lives. Deal with the moral core first. Makes sense.
Precisely. And then to clear up that second doubt about where souls actually live.
Yeah, what's the answer?
Beatrice clarifies that, well, all the blessed souls are actually together. They're all united in the Empyrean, the highest heaven, with God.
So why do they appear in different places then? On the moon and so on.
It's explained as a kind of divine condescension, a way for God to communicate with Dante and through him with us using terms we can grasp.
So showing them in different spheres isn't about their physical location, but it's like a teaching tool.
Exactly. It illustrates the different levels or degrees of blessedness, the variety of ways souls experience that divine joy, but presented in a way our human minds can process.
Okay, that helps. Another insight then. Adapting how we communicate important truths, making them understandable for the audience.
Without distorting the core reality. It's a fine balance.
Right. So they're all with God, but shown differently to help Dante get the different grades of grace. Okay. But back to the justice thing.
The first doubt.
Yeah, why are Picarda and Constance on the moon the lowest sphere if it wasn't really their fault they broke their vows?
Okay, so this is where Beatrice brings in a really key theological distinction. It's about the difference between absolute will and relative will.
Absolute versus relative will. What does that mean?
Absolute will is like your pure core desire for good. It never compromises, never consents to evil, no matter what.
Okay.
Relative will, though, that's the will that might yield under intense outside pressure, maybe to avoid something even worse happening.
Ah, so when Picarda and Constance were dragged away, their absolute will, deep down, still wanted to keep their vow.
Yes, that desire remained.
But their relative will gave in to the violence, to avoid maybe death or torture.
That's the interpretation. Beatrice suggests their will wasn't absolutely firm against the force used. It bent.
And she contrasts them with someone else.
She does. With St. Lawrence, famously martyred by being grilled alive. His will was absolute, unwavering, even through horrific suffering.
Wow. Okay. So the canto is showing us there's a difference between what you truly desire in your heart and what you might concede to under, extreme pressure.
Exactly. And this introduces a real complexity to human choice, to willpower. It's not always just black and white, succeed or fail.
There's this middle ground that weakness can exist even when someone is fundamentally good.
which maybe offers us a path towards more compassion, when we look at others or even ourselves, understanding the pressures people face.
Yeah, but it also really highlights that ideal, doesn't it? That St. Lawrence level of courageous coherence, standing firm when it truly counts.
No matter the cost, absolutely. So Canto 4 gives us quite a bit to chew on for our own journeys.
Let's recap. Prioritize ethical questions.
Look at choices ours and others with more nuance, understanding that difference between absolute and relative will.
Strive for that courageous coherence, that integrity under pressure.
And think about how we communicate complex truths effectively, adapting to who we're talking to.
So as you listening reflect on your own life, your own path, what resonates from this? How do you balance ethical concerns against, say, practical ones? Does thinking about this idea of mixed will, absolute versus relative, maybe change how you see some of your own past decisions or how you view others?
And this raises, I think, an important question for us day to day. How do we tell the difference between when our will is genuinely compromised by circumstances versus when perhaps we're just making excuses for not being fairly committed?
That's a deep one. Definitely something to think about as we move on.
Indeed.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the fourth canto of Paradise.
The journey certainly continues.
It does. We'll see you on the next one.